Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bottom Line Show. I am your host, Miran Kalaydjian, and I'm so glad you are here with us today. The Bottom Line Show is a new public affairs podcast dedicated to informing and engaging the Los Angeles community on the issues that matter most. Together, let's go to the bottom line on what matters most to Los Angeles. Today on the Bottom Line Show, we are joined by Raymond Meza, Chair of the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission, a longtime civic leader and Deputy Chief of Staff at SEIU Local 721. Raymond has dedicated his career to public service and community empowerment, from his roots in East Los Angeles to his leadership in shaping the city's future. He brings insight and experience to one of the most important reform efforts underway in City Hall. Stay with us. We will be diving into what charter reform could mean for the transparency, accountability, and a strong Los Angeles. Raymond, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for so much, Miran, for having me, and thank you to your viewers for listening to this segment.
Thank you. My first question is, many Angelinos have heard the term charter reform, but may not fully understand what it means. Can you walk us through what this process involves and what it matters to everyone, everyday residents?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the questions. When I talk to Angelinos as well, they're like, what in the world is the charter? And I think that's a very fair opinion to have. Well, I want to let Angelinos know if you are concerned about how quickly the potholes get fixed in your community, if you're concerned about if your street light is not working, how do I get it fixed? Or about having safe parks that are upgraded with good, facilities. If those things matter to you, then the charter matters to you because the charter, what it is it's essentially the Constitution of the city of Los Angeles.
Right?
It talks about the powers and roles of elected officials and how we deliver services that are important to Angelinos better and more efficiently.
Perfect. That's very important. Moving forward, there has been public curiosity about who appointed the commission's staff and advisor. Can you walk us through that process and how the commission ensures that the staffing decisions remain transparent and independent from political influence?
Yeah, great question. The commission that is here today was established by an ordinance of City Hall. And so the ordinance says that the executive director is appointed by the mayor and the city council president and confirmed by council. So I want to let the public know this is the ordinance that the city council themselves passed. And it wasn't an ordinance that the commissioners passed. That's the structure that they laid out there. I do want to let the public know that this body is covered by the Brown Act, which is a California law that provides a lot of transparency for in the way which city governments, state government like have to function. So we do also follow all those rules and regulations.
Wow, that's important to know. So my favorite area is neighborhood council. I've been serving on neighborhood councils for a very, very, very long time in various capacity, and I have a duty to speak on their behalf. Many neighborhood council members feel their influence has been limited over time. Is the commission looking at ways to give neighborhood councils more authority or resources in shaping city development, city policy and development?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Miran, for your civic engagement as a leader in your neighborhood council. And I want to thank all of those residents of Los Angeles who are engaged in their neighborhood councils. And yes, the commission is looking at potentially expanding the powers and responsibilities of neighborhood councils. This is one of the items that is specifically being studied by a committee, and we will look forward to looking at recommendations that will do just that.
Okay, that's good. That's important. Now, in throughout all my throughout my experience and journey serving any commission or government entity, outreach is a very critical factor. Um, Raymond, one major concern we are hearing is that the city council and the council president have not yet drafted or shared a clear outreach plan for charter reform. How does that affect the commission's ability to get meaningful public input?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Outreach and engagement as chair of the commission is extremely important to me. We want to hear from as many parts of Los Angeles, different neighborhoods, all the stakeholders in the city on what their priorities are. If you go to our website, we actually have a survey that is active right now. Would appreciate you perhaps dropping that, at some point in the interview or afterwards. On this topic, the commission approved an outreach and engagement plan very early in our process. It has been heard at the Rules Committee of the City Council and will be going forward to the full City Council. But I want to let you and your listeners know that this is something that is critically important to me and to the entire commission.
Okay. From what I understand, some of the commissions were appointed by the mayor, and you were appointed by the mayor, but haven't met her. Does this raise questions how about independent the commission truly is and how connected it's to the administration goals to reform?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the commission has 13 members. There is one vacancy, so actually only have 12 commissioners right now. There are four mayoral appointees, which you noted. I am one of the mayoral appointees. There are also two appointees by the city council president, two appointees by the city council pro tem, and then it was left up to those original appointees to do an application process to select the five remaining appointees. The vacancy is actually from the city pro tem, so it's not one of the five that the initial appointee set. I would like it to be noted though that this is the only commission in the city of Los Angeles that has this two-step process, meaning this is the only commission in the city of Los Angeles that has appointees that are not all from elected officials. So
Mm.
I understand that there are those concerns, but this commission is actually very unique in the amount of independence that it has.
When do you expect to have a meeting with the mayor?
I'm not sure. I mean, if the mayor or any city official, for example, were to reach out to me, I would be happy to have a discussion with them. I've also encouraged all city officials to communicate with us in public, and I know that the mayor has sent us, for example, a letter on her priorities on planning and infrastructure, which is publicly posted to the commission's website.
Right. Uh, I attended most of your meetings for the charter reform, and one of the most important topics that I hear is the city council size expansion. One of the key proposals being discussed is expanding the size of the City of Los Angeles Council. What are the main arguments for increasing the number of council members, and what challenges might come with that kind of change?
Yeah, this is a topic that I hear a lot of Angelinos talking about and that the commission has been taking very seriously. The commission has had presentations on this topic for the entire commission. In addition to that, I believe it was just yesterday, which was yesterday at the time of this recording was October 16th. There was a committee meeting dedicated to city council expansion. So what are some of the proponents saying about city council expansion? Some of the proponents are saying that potential city council expansion could make for a more diverse set of city council members who can represent communities that traditionally aren't represented on the city council. Another thing that was presented to us yesterday in the committee was potentially having city council members that come from homes where you live in your family, and it's not just like a single family home, and you don't see that a lot under the current construction of the city council. So diversity is one of the main things that proponents are talking about. Um, People who are not so much in favor of city council, some of the things that they will say is we understand that people want more representation, but do they really want more elected officials in government? And so I think there are a lot of strong opinions on this topic. What the commissioners are dedicated to doing right now is to really studying all of the pros and cons, studying any unintended consequences, and then making a really informed recommendation to the city council on this.
Mm, wow. You've been long enough and you've been a veteran in the government system. Um, you have heard a wide range of ideas and priorities through this process. Looking ahead, which three recommendations do you believe have the strongest chance of reaching up the ballot and, more importantly, of earning public support?
I genuinely believe that the public wants better delivery of city services.
Mhm.
People want to make sure that if you're not driving down one of the major streets, that your axle isn't going to be blown out because you've hit a series of potholes. So I believe that some of the recommendations that we're putting forward to make sure that infrastructure is more efficiently and effectively done in the city of Los Angeles will get passed. One of those things is looking at a 5-year capital improvement program so that it provides transparency to the taxpayers on where is my money going and how is it benefiting the infrastructure of the city. So I believe that's one area that I could see not just getting to the ballot, but the voters approving. Another area um, is is making sure that we have a government that is accountable to the residents. And what I mean by that is right now in City Hall, there's sometimes like this blame game, like who's responsible for what. We want to provide a lot of clarity that the buck stops with someone, whether that's the city council or the mayor or the controller. It is very clear to the public who is responsible for what duties in the city of Los Angeles. And we believe that that would be very welcomed by the voters.
Right. That's important to know. Now I'm going to reverse the question. Which three recommendations do you believe that has no chance to move forward to reaching the ballot?
Yeah. Well, we are still, it's a, so the process is very quick. The commission has till the beginning of April to send our recommendations to city council. And then city council has to go through a process by early June to put something on the ballot for November of 2026. And I think this is the hard part of me answering your question, is that there are a variety of things that can happen. When the commission sends their recommendation to council, the council could say on one hand, we think all of the recommendations are great. We're going to put it on the ballot as is. I don't think that's going to happen.
Mm,
On the other end of the spectrum, the city council can say, we don't like any of these recommendations and we're going to put nothing on the ballot. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be somewhere in between. And at that point in time, I think I'll be able to more accurately address your question about what's not going to make it on the ballot.
wow. Land use and development is another critical area. How do you think land use and development decisions are among the most powerful tools City Hall controls, yet also the most controversial? How is the Charter Reform Commission addressing concerns about how land use authority is concentrated within individual council districts?
I really appreciate that question because it's one of the primary areas that this commission is looking into. In fact, this Saturday, we are having a committee meeting dedicated to this topic at Pacoima City Hall, where we're going to be looking into the entire land use decision-making process. We're going to be looking into the powers of the Board of Public Works. We're going to be looking into how the different city departments, like Department of Transportation, DWP, Public Works, which includes street lighting and a bunch of other bureaus, how they all interact with each other. And it's very complex. And what we want to do is we want to simplify it and make it so that if you are a resident of the city of Los Angeles, you understand how this planning process takes place. And right now, that is very hard to do. So we are actively studying it, and we look forward to be putting recommendations forward in the near future.
Wow. Raymond, when I attended some of your, well, most of the meetings, you have some lobbyists that they attend and they never introduce or recognize themselves. So land use and development decisions often seem driven by lobbyists rather than community needs. How will charter reform ensure equity and fairness in those decisions?
Yeah, no, that is really important, and that is a good nexus between another topic that the charter is addressing, which is ethics and anti-corruption measures. And there is overlap with the way that land use decision making and infrastructure decision making processes take place. I want to let the public know, that commissioners have very strong ethical guidelines, especially when it comes to interacting with lobbyists. So, anyone is provided to give public opinion. But for example, commissioners are not allowed to lobby on any city matters. And so I want to let the public know that, number one. Number two is we are looking at some of the ways that land use has played a role in some of the corruption scandals in the city of Los Angeles. And we are also looking at putting forward recommendations that we feel can provide real strength in improving this area.
Wow. Uh, as you know, Los Angeles has seen a string of corruption scandals in recent years involving city council members. Why should voters trust that this reform process will actually change the structure of power and not just the structure of a government?
The wonderful thing about this process is that the voters are going to be the final decision makers on whatever the final product is. This commission is listening to testimony from academics, from public officials like yourself, from general members of the public, and we're eagerly awaiting recommendations from the Ethics Commission and other good governance groups on how we tackle some of these issues. In addition to that, we are looking at over 30 different cities' charters to see different languages and models for how they address corruption, the removal and discipline of elected officials. And so I look forward to presenting the public all that we have done to really provide work in this area.
Okay. There are some residents and stakeholders and constituents, they feel this commission has operated quietly without much public input. Why wasn't there more aggressive outreach early on, and how will that change now?
Yeah. Well, I want to invite any member of the public to please, if they have an interest in this topic, to submit written public comment, to come to one of our commission meetings. I understand that not everyone can make it to City Hall. One of the items that was included in the law that created this commission was that the commission has to go into every single council district. The public can see all of our meetings on the commission website. We look forward to adding more meetings, and we'll be adding more meetings to that calendar, in addition to 3 virtual public town halls that we are hosting. I want to let the public know, I believe I was confirmed by council in June of this year.
Right.
July, August, September, October.
4 months.
And it's October 17th today. And the same day that I was confirmed by council, so was the executive director of this commission.
Right.
And most people do understand, that whether it's really any job that you have, it takes a while to get things up and running. And so we have already started doing community engagement, and we look forward to do even more than we have been doing.
Wow. Do you believe that the commission has enough authority, or is City Hall ultimately controlling what recommendation make it to the ballot?
The fact of the matter is that the city council does have the authority to determine what makes it on the ballot. That's the way that the law works on this. It is different from the last iteration of charter reform that took place in the late 90s, where there were two commissions. The elected Charter Reform Commission had the authority to place their recommendations directly before the voters. The law that created this commission right now that I am the chair of, we only submit our recommendations to council. I believe that the council will seriously consider our recommendations. As chair, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure they understand why they should put our recommendations as much as intact as possible before the voters. But at the end of the day, it is the city council that does have the final decision-making power under the law.
Mm. I want to go back to the land use. I have a follow-up question. Should the commission consider limiting council control over land use decision, given the history of backroom deals and pay-to-play concerns in zoning and development?
That is an issue that the commission is absolutely taking on and studying, and I would not be surprised if there was a recommendation in that exact area.
Wow. Uh, Going back to your leadership, what have you learned from leading this commission that gives you hope or concern, and how our city government works today?
Well, I have a lot of hope for this commission because it's comprised of individual citizens like you. None of
Mm.
us have served in elected office before. All of us come from really deep benches of experience from different parts of the city of Los Angeles. I myself have 17 years of a career at a labor union. My vice chair comes from the private sector. She's the head of PR for a huge community clinic here in the city of Los Angeles. Three of our commissioners have previously served on commissions. Two of them have been heads of commissions. We have other commissioners who come from the philanthropic space, the nonprofit space. It's a very diverse commission, and it gives me a lot of hope because these commissioners are fiercely independent. And I think that is a huge benefit to the public because you've been to our meetings, but for the public who hasn't, our commissioners will share their opinions. They will share their thoughts and they
Mm.
won't have a filter. And I think that is essential for transparency. So I have a lot of hope in the process. And I also know that the commissioners really are trying to do their best to get the best public policy for the city of Los Angeles.
Yes, and I remember, Raymond, you were also my guest on my neighborhood council as a guest speaker. And when you attended in person and you did your introduction and explaining what is the charter reform, it felt more connected and it was more clear to them to understand about the mission, the principle, and the process. That was a very important to build the trust. So building public trust has been one of the biggest challenges in Los Angeles politics. What message would you share with voters who feel disconnected or skeptical about this process?
That I completely understand that perspective. I one of the main reasons that I decided to become a commissioner is because I love Los Angeles. I was born and raised here. My family's been here for 3 generations. My nephews are going to the same high school that my sister went to and that my mom went to. And every Angelino that I talk to has a story about why they love this city. But when they think of their city government, it's like heartbreak. It's
No.
heartbreaking. The scandals, the inefficiencies. And so I understand that perspective. And what I want to let your listeners know and the public who genuinely feel that way is we are attempting to mend that heartbreak through this very important process.
I'm glad that you shared this. Now, if meaningful reform fails to reach the ballot, what message does that send to voters about leadership in Los Angeles?
I don't believe it will get there because there are many steps in the process. So
Okay.
first is we have the commission, and we still have 6 months to go before submitting our final recommendations. And we look forward to more community engagement, to hearing from the public about their priorities. In addition to that, when it does get to the city council, the public can still keep up the pressure and the advocacy to their elected officials saying, we want these recommendations put on the ballot. You need to do the right thing. And I feel like keeping up that advocacy and continuing these conversations even after the recommendations are set will help put us in a place so that good recommendations get on the ballot in November of next year.
And what is the timeline moving forward? When is the last day you need to have this recommendation? Who is receiving the recommendation? Who is making the decision? And what is next?
Yeah, so the timeline is that the commission will continue doing its work until April of 2026, where we have to send our final recommendations to the city council. The city council has until early June to deliberate and study our recommendations. And then they will need to make a final vote sometime in early June on what to place in the on the ballot, and then the voters will have the final decision on election day in November 2026.
Okay. And what do you personally see as the biggest threat to this reform process? Political interference, lack of funding, or public apathy?
I think lack of time
Mm,
is one of the biggest challenges that this commission is facing. As I mentioned earlier, I got confirmed by council only a few months ago. The charter is an incredibly important document for the city of Los Angeles. There are many things that we can be looking at, and we've already sort of narrowed the scope of what the commission is really studying. I want to let the public know, that we are doing everything beyond humanly possible to get the best recommendations for the city of Los Angeles. But the time frame that we have is very challenging. But we are marching on.
wow. Great. Raymond, this has been very important by you being here today and explaining the complete picture of the charter reform. I want to thank you for sharing your insights today. But before we close, is there one final message you'd like to leave with our readers, community members, stakeholders, something you hope they remember as Los Angeles moves through this reform moment?
This is a moment in history. It has been a tumultuous year for the city of Los Angeles, from the fires that we experienced to the kidnapping of people in our communities. And this is a historic opportunity charter reform. There have only been three charter reform commissions in the last 120 years. I feel privileged and honored every single day to be a commissioner and to be chair. We can make amazing improvements to our city government. So I ask you to be engaged. I ask you to visit our website, to sign up for our newsletter, and follow us on social media. We need everyone in the city, and I really appreciate you inviting me for this interview and for this time.
Thank you. And Raymond, I personally appreciate your time and thoughtful perspective on this important topic. Charter reform affects every neighborhood in Los Angeles, and your leadership on the commission helps bring that conversation closer to the people. And to our readers on City Watch LA and to our community members, stakeholders, neighborhood, thank you for being part of the Bottom Line Show. Remember, change begins with awareness and participation. And together, let's get to the bottom line on what matters most to our city. Thank you.